probably clicked on this video because you've seen loads of pro players swapping to using a custom crosshair. Tier 1s like Cooper, Khanada, Pixie and Pollo have all started using it. So what are the advantages? Does it actually help your aim? Does it help you hitting more max damage shots? And will it actually make you a better player? Well, in this video, I'm going to be trying it out for 1 week. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts towards the end. I'm going to let all the positives I noticed from using it in a bunch of different tournaments, as well as grinding ranked with it, as well as a couple of the disadvantages that you get when using a custom crosshair. Before we get started, I need to mention this video is sponsored by Crosshair X. I was going to do a crosshair video regardless, but they gladly gave me a key to try it out, and you guys can all get a 1 week free trial of Crosshair X if you want to try out using some of these pro crosshairs that I feature in the video. Alright, so first things first, a lot of you guys have clicked on this video to figure out if the custom crosshairs are worth it, what's the hype around it, what are the actual benefits, does it help your aim, does it help you hit more max damage shots, and before we get into that, let's answer the big question, is it safe to use? Yes, it is confirmed by Epic employees that it's safe to use. A lot of pros like Khanada and Cooper have already swapped to using it, and of course for them, they wouldn't swap to using it if there was some risk to actually using it itself. And the reason why it is so safe to use is it's literally just a PNG that goes over on Windows game bar. It's nothing messing with the actual game files itself. So here you can see this is Windows game bar, and all it is literally just a PNG like this that stays over the center of your screen, and you can customize this to however you want, which we'll get into later on. Alright, so first things first, the main benefit of using a custom crosshair is to basically just remove the Fortnite in-game crosshair. And the reason why you want to do this is because the Fortnite crosshair, to be honest, is pretty bad in a lot of situations. I think for shotguns and for some ARs, it definitely can be good, or an SMG, depending on your attachments and things like that. However, the key issue with the Fortnite crosshair is whenever you're building, whenever you're like editing something, whenever you're going ahead and swapping back to your gun or swapping to your AR or something, your crosshair is changing the entire time, right? Especially when you're moving around, especially when you're spraying, especially when you're doing any type of build combo. Your crosshair is moving around and doing different things at all points in time, and it can become very distracting, as well as you can sometimes lose track of where your crosshair is. Let's say right here, I'm doing an edit. As you can see, this white crosshair is going to be blending in with the white background, as well as the white part of the wall. It's very hard to figure out exactly where my opponent is, especially depending on their skin. That is why things like grey superhero skins are always meta in a stack tournament, because of how OP they are when it comes to just things like literally just spotting somebody in a box when you've got a white crosshair and you're editing a white edit and a white and blue edit, right? However, let's say, for example, I disable the Fortnite crosshair right here. I'll just turn it off, and then I enable my custom crosshair, this nice bright pink crosshair. As you can see, it is so obvious where the center of my screen is, and that is all a crosshair is. It's literally just telling you where the center of your screen is. Where am I going to be wanting to put my crosshair to hit a max damage shot, and where do I want to put my crosshair to edit as quick as possible, right? Again, a crosshair isn't going to drastically improve your aiming. It's not going to help you hit 10 times more max damage shots. It just tells you where the center of your screen is, and it helps you visualize exactly what that point is, which is why I recommend using an obvious crosshair like this pink one I've got here that is quite large. One big thing with the custom crosshair is it's really helpful for sniping. So you can see here, this is how the sniper scope normally looks like, just regular. However, it's very hard to hit a shot with this crosshair because of how wide it is, especially when you're going for quick scopes, especially if you're using, let's say, a hollow sight or a red dot sight, something like that, right? It's very hard to actually consistently hit shots and quick scopes with that. However, with a custom crosshair, it shows exactly where the center of your dot is, so you can very quickly scope in, for example, and hit a shot. So I'm going to just quickly scope in, know exactly where I'm going, even when I'm moving around, even when my crosshair is super wide. It's very easy to figure out exactly where to shoot, and that's one of the main benefits of using a custom crosshair. Another one of the main benefits that I noticed from using this, and again, this could just be completely placebo, since of course there shouldn't actually be a direct correlation. It's just I was a lot better at visualizing where somebody's head was and lining up a shot. If you guys just play 200 pump with and without it, you probably notice a difference in how much more consistent you are with lining up headshots, just because of how much more visible your crosshair is. Of course, the Fortnite crosshair, where it's a perfect circle that shows exactly where the pellets are, can be good, but I find a lot of times it's a lot harder to visualize exactly where to put the crosshair and where to actually pull the trigger to get the max damage shot compared to a custom crosshair. Another one of the main benefits is whenever you're in an intense situation, let's say you're in a box with somebody, I find it way easier just simply put to hit shots on somebody, especially if you're doing a play like this where I'm flipping a stair. My crosshair is obviously not going to be perfectly lined up, and I'm going to go into like a 50-50 situation. I find it very much easier to hit a shot when I don't have this massive sort of circle with the 3 tiles in the middle. This is such a bad crosshair for lining up a shot on, even if I was to do a smart edit and drop down. Instead, if I was to use a custom crosshair, so I'll turn this one off, as you can see, this is just so much easier to figure out exactly where I'm going to be aiming after, because of how much more visible it is, because of how much easier it is, and because of the consistency between the crosshairs. Another benefit of using the custom crosshair is basically whenever you're in an awkward situation, or you're trying to do some type of awkward edit, or you're in a really weird situation to do an edit like I am here, as you can see, I find it a lot easier to be consistent with edits, especially when the wall is already low HP and you need to do like a clutch edit to get out of the box. I personally find it extremely easy to do those consistent edits with a custom crosshair, mainly because it's so clearly visible where my crosshair is on the wall. I've not got a white crosshair getting drowned out by all the white and stuff on the wall, as well as the white between the edit tiles. It's very easy for me to do all these edits and do them consistently with the custom crosshair. Alright, now let's get into some of the downsides of using a custom crosshair. And the first one is whenever you're using a long range gun with a scope on it, it can be somewhat distracting. As you can see here, when I'm ADS using a double scope, so I've got the in-game Fortnite scope on the top of my gun as well as the custom crosshair. It's just a bit too much visual clutter. It makes it hard to see the target and hard to get those shots. I will say, however, whenever you're just like coming up on somebody and you quit the ADS, it's very nice to have that exact center point and then the exact shot that you're lining up. It makes it a lot easier to get those quick beams off on people. However, these really long range small tags sometimes can be quite hard, and it's quite distracting on a gun like a thermal or even like a red dot like this. It's quite distracting. So what I'd recommend doing is just having an easy quick bind that you can use to turn off the crosshair, and then whenever you're done tagging somebody, you can turn it back on and use it for any other type of situation. All right, the next disadvantage is of course that there is a slight performance impact from using it. As you can see here, just using the extension plus the game bar itself is around 100 megabytes of RAM being used, which again isn't a crazy amount. It's not using any of your CPU, so you can see, which is obviously very impactful for Fortnite. Fortnite uses an insane amount of your CPU, and again, it's way less than even something like, let's say, Epic Games Launcher being running in the background, or if you were to open up Google, for example, and have a tab open while you're playing, you can see the massive performance impact that would have on your game. Again, if you are to use this, I probably would say try it out, especially from a lower end system. It might have an impactful notice. However, for the majority of people, for me personally, I've got a PC that's literally just for Fortnite. I didn't notice anything when I was using it. I actually felt like my input delay and everything was better because I was more aware of where my crosshair was, and it actually really didn't have an impact, especially in an endgame situation. I think it actually helps out a lot more than it would hinder your performance. So the last downside, in my opinion, is you lose a lot of information that crosshair would be giving you. So for example, with a gatekeeper, you lose, exactly how big the crosshair is and how freely you can hit somebody, as well as with a pump, you lose that nice crosshair that shows you exactly where to put your crosshair to land a max damage shot. Same thing with an AR, let's say you're spraying, and you lose exactly how wide your bullets seem to be spreading in that situation. And sometimes it can be nice to have the exact Fortnite crosshair. Let's say a shot like this, you want to figure out exactly where you can shoot through and make sure you're not just lining up a shot like that, where obviously you can see a lot of pellets are going to be getting hit into the wall, even though it looks like the center of the screen is on the target. One thing I would recommend doing if you are using a custom crosshair is to make sure that you keep on the damage numbers, put them on cumulative, as well as keep on the ammo indicators. You have as much information on your crosshair as possible, right? The ammo indicator is really useful, especially with a gun like a gatekeeper or a spray gun, just so you can figure out exactly when you need to reload. It's very crucial to having success when using a custom crosshair. One strategy I have seen a couple pros using to get past this lack of information with only a custom crosshair is to use both at the same time. Cooper, for example, the global champion, as you can see here, is using a very minimalist little red crosshair that's basically just an arrow pointing to where you want to hit your shots, as you can see, and it's very helpful. Whenever you're popping heals, whenever you're going for a sniper, that little small red crosshair is not going to be too distracting, it's not going to be too obtrusive, and you still get the exact information where the center of your screen is, so you can hit those quick shots. And here, in a situation like this, where you're trying to, let's say, replace somebody's cone or check if they're in a cone, or if you want to go ahead and box fight and replace, you still get all of that information that the Fortnite crosshair gives you with the exact center point being maintained the entire time without your crosshair swapping around too much. Definitely give this a try out if you're not fully committed to just playing with a custom crosshair only and disabling the Fortnite crosshair. So after going through all the positives and disadvantages, is it worth it to use a custom crosshair? And for me personally, I think it's 100% worth it. If you guys aren't going to notice the performance impact, and of course you already know all the different information about bullet spread and things like that, I think it is 100% worth it to at least try it out and notice. I've noticed that my aim has become a lot better. I've become a lot more consistent with my free builds and my edits as well as situations when I'm in a close quarters box fight with somebody and just being more consistent with hitting a shot. I notice a drastic improvement, as well as just tracking through builds, making sure I'm able to hit people while I'm spraying has drastically improved when I started using a custom crosshair. Again, I'm not saying it's a miracle cure for your aim. It's not going to drastically improve you, make you into a tier 1 aimer and make you way better at tracking and hitting max damage shots, but it definitely does help, and I definitely recommend you guys try it out if you are interested in doing so. So now that you guys have decided whether you want to use a custom crosshair or not, let's go ahead and figure out what is the best custom crosshair for you, what is going to be the most beneficial for your playstyle and your needs out of a crosshair. Again, you can just use one of the pro crosshairs, you can just use a default one, and you can just play around with it yourself. However, trying to find one that fits your needs is going to be really useful, and it's going to help you play a lot better, as well as you'll be a lot more confident with hitting your shots. So what I'm going to recommend using is Crosshair X. These guys actually sponsored this video. I was going to do the video regardless, but they recommended me to use their software, and this is the main piece of software that pretty much all of the pros are using. It's very easy to set up, and all you can do from here is just choose a bunch of pros crosshairs to use for yourself. For example, you can use Coopers, Khanadas, Pollos. There's a couple of content creators, and one thing I would recommend with these crosshairs is obviously play around with them a little bit in creative and free build with them, but try to avoid a big one, something like this, that's just gonna be way too distracting. And also, if we come over here to the community tab, there's a whole load of selections. Try to avoid a really small dot crosshair. A lot of people like these dot crosshairs, but personally I think they're very bad for your aim. It means that your crosshair placement's gonna be off, you're gonna lose your crosshair a lot, you're not gonna be as consistent with your shots with a really small crosshair. Try to find a nice middle ground of a crosshair that you like the style of, that isn't too small and isn't too big, and definitely helps your aim. So for me personally, that's going to be this Pollo crosshair, and then what I'm going to do with it is play around with the design. So what I'm going to do, and what I'd recommend you guys do as well, is try to find a really nice vibrant color that makes your crosshair stand out. It's not just about, you know, the shape of it or the center dot or the lines or whatever, it's also about the color to make sure it stands out. The issue with the white crosshair, I'll show you real quick, is as you can see here, it's just really gonna blend in very well with any type of, you know, white background. If you're fighting a white skin in the box, if you've got somebody in a stair and you want to edit on them, all these white lines are just going to distract you slightly. So what I would recommend doing is coming into the software, as you can see here, and then just playing around with the colors. You can go for a really light blue, like right there. You can go for a really bright green to be very vibrant. However, what I recommend is using pink, since pretty much nobody is wearing a pink skin in game, apart from maybe Moneymaker using a flamingo skin, and it's going to be extremely obvious exactly where somebody is, so you can set it up just like that. If you guys want to try out the crosshair I've been using in this video, I'll leave the code on screen. Just type in that code if you're using Crosshair X, and it'll allow you to set it as your crosshair, just like that. And then now I've got this lovely crosshair that's, again, not too big, it's smaller than the regular default Fortnite one. However, the key thing is it's very nice and visible, it's not distracting, and it doesn't block people's heads. Like, it's not massive, and it's also not too small, just a single dot. That's going to be allowing me to always hit my shots and always be a lot more confident in my aim, as well as quick with mechanics and things like that, and not missing edits.